Heads of states and governments of Central and West African states have today commenced deliberations on how to render the Gulf of Guinea a pirate-free zone, and also on the Maritime Security Summit taking place in Yaoundé Central region of the country. The gathering, the first of its kind, leaves the country's political capital in intense traffic. And also in this newscast, we take you out of Cameroon to talk about the condition of the anti-apartheid icon Nelson Mandela, which remains preoccupying after spending 16 days in hospital. Good evening to viewers. Welcome back from the weekend. You are watching the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinox Television. We begin right here in Yaoundé Central region of the country, where heads of states and governments of the Central and West African states, as well as maritime experts, are in Yaoundé within the framework of the first Maritime Security Summit in the Gulf of Guinea. The summit seeks to put a stop on all illegal activities and insecurity in the Gulf of Guinea, and some of the heads of states began converging on Yaoundé Central region of the country. That was yesterday under the watchful eyes of a Yaoundé-based correspondent Roland Akon. His report.
President Michel Djotodia of the Central African Republic is conspicuously absent from the Yaoundé meeting of heads of state of the Gulf of Guinea. His name does not feature on the list of invited heads of state. Our informants say the new leader of the Central African Republic is not yet recognized as a member of the Economic Community of Central African States. President Muhammadu Issoufou of Niger was the first head of state to arrive Yaoundé for the meeting. Prime Minister Yang received him on behalf of President Biya, who did not show up at the airport to welcome his peers. A recent terrorist attack in a military training ground in his country killed 23 soldiers, including a Cameroonian who was on training in Niger. President Pinto da Costa of Sao Tome and Principe was among the first heads of state to arrive Yaoundé for the meeting. President Obiangema Mbazogo, whose country October 2011 hosted the third summit of heads of state of the Commission of the Gulf of Guinea, came with his wife Constancia Mange Dobian. After the Equato-Guinean presidential couple came President Thomas Yahi Boni of Benin. Revenue from the Cotonou Port has fallen over the years by 70%, and the 9.4 million people country suffers pirate attacks and hijacking of merchant ships. President Goodluck Jonathan Ebele also arrived Sunday evening. The Federal Republic of Nigeria, with a population of 166 million people, loses 7% of its oil revenue to piracy. President Ebele Jonathan has launched a fierce attack against the Boko Haram and Ansam Islamic militants in the north of Nigeria. President Blaise Compaoré of Burkina Faso, a landlocked country with 14 million inhabitants, attends regularly Yaoundé Heads of State summits. As a former student of the Yaoundé Combined Military Academy, the EKWE negotiator for peace in the war-stricken Mali knows Yaoundé very well. President Denis Sassou Nguesso of Congo closed the arrival of heads of state Sunday evening. Congo, with a population of 4.1 million inhabitants, is exposed to hijackers in the small coast of its country.
Roland Akon there reporting on the arrival of some of the heads of states and governments. That was yesterday in Yaoundé Central region of the country. And just to add that discussions began as a go and the meeting is holding behind closed doors. Meanwhile, the summit which opened this afternoon is said to have paralyzed movement in some neighborhoods in the country's political capital, Yaoundé. Traffic congestion is rather intense, and routes for deviation are in very critical state, as Roland Akon, a Yaoundé-based correspondent, tells us once again.
Footing is now obligatory to many Yaoundé inhabitants as many Yaoundé roads are blocked due to the Yaoundé Gulf of Guinea Summit of Heads of State. Movement by vehicle is also cumbersome due to intense slow traffic flow, an annoyance to many city dwellers. Yaoundé inhabitants are leaving their houses very early to their various businesses, dodging away from roadblocks and intense traffic jam in the city since Monday. Many secondary roads in the city for deviation are in bad state. When Yaoundé town roads are blocked during high-level meetings, like the Gulf of Guinea meeting, the 17-kilometer Ahala-Barien-Simalen stretch of road serves as a deviation for all transport vehicles going to the south. The road is in a bad state. Earmarked for tarring since 2011, nothing has been done on the road.
Je veux que les grandes réalisations là, qu'elles fassent quelque chose pour nous.
Inhabitants, transporters, and other road users are calling on the government to check the tarring and rehabilitation of Yaoundé secondary stretches so as to avoid inconveniences caused during high-level meetings in Yaoundé.
And another bad road is are some roads here in the country's economic capital, Douala, where circulation continued to be perturbed in some parts of the city, from Bonaberi to some parts of the city of Douala, following ongoing rehabilitation works a few meters from the Vuri Bridge in Bonasama. Commuters this morning are said to have waited on the spot for hours for movement to be fluid, and so that movement could be fluid, and it took over 3 hours for the situation to return to normal. Traffic jam has been a common phenomenon on the bridge, Rompuang, Akwa, and right up to Bepanda here in the economic capital, Douala, ever since the rehabilitation works kicked off in that part of the city of Douala, and it remains unclear when works at Bonasama would be due. Meantime, the case between former general manager of the National Petroleum Depot, Guinea FA, and the state of Cameroon has been dropped. That is just one of the charges that were levied against him. And the deposed general manager of SADP, as it is known in French, and other 2 alleged accomplices were last weekend acquitted. They were found not guilty for the mismanagement of funds in the company's finance department, known in the French language as Caisse Autonome d'Amortissement. But he continues to serve his 30-year jail term, slammed on him and 6 co-accused by the Vuri High Court over the embezzlement of some 2 billion francs CFA. We shall be coming back to that in our subsequent newscast. Meantime, youths applying for public examinations or concours in delegations here in the city of Douala have complained, or they are saying that the compilation process is expensive and very, very cumbersome. A majority have, however, remained optimistic, though they say a lot of competition is involved. For Hansin Chanji tells us more in the following report.
At the office of the divisional officer for Douala 1 in Bonanjo, youth could be seen busy certifying their documents for different entrance examinations into the public service and educational institutions. They troop in numbers daily to have their documents signed.
I came here for a concours of gendarmerie. There's a lot of unemployment in Cameroon. Need a certified birth certificate, a certified GCE original.
To have my GCE first, then just the GCE and all the legal documents that they ask for. That means my report cards of Premier and Terminal.
But there is a problem.
It's expensive, and we're not even sure of succeeding, so I think it's expensive.
Despite the limited number needed in some cases, the applicants remain optimistic.
Yes, of course. No, they need 200 people, but at least they say that 10,000 are preparing for the exam, but they only take 200 people.
Most of these youths said they are still awaiting results of baccalaureate and probatoire, but have applied to secure a position while remaining confident that they will make it. The atmosphere at the divisional office of Douala 1 is busy. Under the rain, in the corridors, it is business. Each and every youth is trying to make ends meet. To them, there is hope on the horizon.
For Hansen Chanji, they're reporting now the health condition of Madiba remains preoccupying. The former South African President Nelson Mandela, who is still in Pretoria Hospital, is said to be critical. In a statement from the South African presidency, Jacob Zuma said doctors are doing their best to ensure that he gets better. Nelson Mandela was taken to hospital in Pretoria 2 weeks ago with a recurring lung infection, and the U.S. President Barack Obama has announced a visit to South Africa and to the former apartheid leader Nelson Mandela, and he has called on the world to pray for the recovery of the anti-apartheid icon. Viewers, that does it for this first segment of the news. Up next is Talking Point. Thank you, viewers, for joining us tonight. We are going to be talking about the summit of the Central and West African states on security or piracy or maritime piracy on the Gulf of Guinea, which is currently ongoing in Yaoundé Central region of the country. Our guest tonight is a journalist. Good evening, Henriette, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Good evening, Mimi.
Like I earlier indicated, some states governments have since this morning been converging on Yaoundé Central region of the country to seek ways of eradicating maritime piracy and insecurity in the Gulf of Guinea. So this is the first of its kind, the first time it is taking place, and we see over 26 African leaders involved, meaning that 26 African states are involved. But Cameroon is the host country.
Yes.
What's the significance?
Because we are just placed in the middle between these two areas from the ECOWAS and ECAS. And I think that this is very important because we are the turning point of this fight against piracy. And I think that we have had unconsciousness on the security of the coast all over the Gulf of Guinea, because when you have a country without a fleet, without aircraft for the surveillance of the coast, then you can have easily piracy. And we have got very several assaults on Cameroon in Limbe, in Bonaberi, and even in the base of Elf or Total. We have these problems because we need to protect our coast. You know, in the international law, the 200 miles away from the coast is still the national territory. So we have to protect this territory. We have to have a good fleet, good equipments to make sure that any act of piracy can be fight back.
An indication that it is not only taking place on the coast,
yes,
it's also taking place in cities.
In
like
cities,
Cameroon,
yes.
So it brings to mind the question, what is actually maritime piracy? To be more precise, if we want to know what maritime piracy means to be.
Maritime piracy started with those people claiming for the good share of the oil products or money in Nigeria, the Mint, and then it took over with sort of highway hijackers who come to the platforms where they are doing oil production and try to get money from boats and so on, from ships, and everybody who is there without any defense can be sort of prey for these people who are hijackers and pirates in the water, and they are heavily armed. So it makes it very difficult. As we saw in the Gulf of Aden, you know, they have to have many warships of the Western countries, very powerful armada to fight these pirates who were very, very heavily armed, to make sure that they can pass. This is a very big route, like in the Gulf of Guinea. These are all the route of oil and all the products of waters, and even for trade.
So that's how strategic the Gulf of Guinea
It's
is.
strategic because you have also to pour in goods for not only the coastal states, but also in the hinterland, those states like Chad, like Niger, who need to have security in these coastal areas to make sure that the ships will come in and bring their goods, and they can also have the exportations safely out of the Gulf of Guinea to Europe or to the U.S., you know. So we need this security for development, you know, to make your importations and to make exportations. So all Africa is concerned, you know, in this area because they need to have their goods, they need to have exportations through these ports or these infrastructures.
So some of these problems, the various heads of state taking part in the ongoing summit in Yaoundé seem to master all of these problems. Now the problem is, can we await a concrete measure to curb the increasing insecurity in the Gulf of Guinea?
You know, this matter has been tackled and handled for a few years now with the help of the U.S. Navy, the French Navy, and so on. So they want to make sure that they can do what they want and secure the routes of oil to the U.S. or to Europe, and to make sure that the oil exploitation can be safe in these areas. So I think that this is a question that they are trying to address it at the level of each country. But now the originality is that we are going to have
it for the first time
for the group, yes, solidarity and mutualizing our efforts and mutualizing our potentialities of defense in our waters.
We know that heads of states and governments have been meeting in order. We talking about before the holding of the ongoing maritime summit in Yaoundé, they met in a ministerial meeting. That was the 28th edition. That was still in Africa.
Yes.
That the proposal was actually given. Yes. So they have been meeting severally. Normally they have not been talking about the PRISO, maritime piracy, but they have been meeting to seek ways
to seek solutions.
Seek solutions to some of the problems plaguing Africa.
Yes.
And this is another problem that is plaguing Africa. Judging from the way some of those solutions are being handled, the resolutions arrived at in some of the meetings. Do you see, is there any guarantee that the proposals that will be given or the proposal that will be given in Yaoundé will be backed by concrete solutions?
I think that they have to have concrete solutions, because if you don't have these concrete solutions, then you cannot have any activity in our area, which is very rich. They are saying that by 20 years from now, maybe will be the first oil production area in the world.
And probability is just a probability.
It's a probability, but we have very several reserves. I think that they need to do it, because there's no way. If you want to develop your country, if you have to make your exportations safe, if you want to have security on your oil platforms and so on, you have to make something for that. And you know that they say that we are losing money because the act of piracy, of hijackings and so on. So if the area is not secure, we cannot develop, we cannot do what we want. And if there have been meetings in Rwanda and so on of the ministers in Benin or Togo, it's just to prepare to pave the way for the summit that is taking place now in Yaoundé. I hope that we don't have any way out of this situation if we don't have to come together and to put all our means together to fight back piracy and to secure our business and our development. There's no way out.
Coming together is very vital, and you are talking about mutuality, togetherness.
Yes.
And I think let's evaluate the representation of the various parties or the actors involved. Here we have the seafarers involved, heads of states, governments involved. But we
And
see
other
the principal
delegations.
actors, other delegations. But we see the principal actors here are governments, heads of states. We see seafarers who are actually maritime experts that are directly involved in the whole thing. They are not highly represented, I should say, because I should not say fully. So where is the guarantee that these problems would be ended?
I think we have experts. We have U.S. experts, French experts working with different countries. And in the last February, there were maneuvers of the U.S. Navy here in Douala with Congolese, Gabonese, Sao Tome and Principe, and all these countries around. But you need to do it, because if you don't do it, you cannot make that your exportations are safe. So there is no way to do anything. We need experts, and we have experts. We have Cameroonian experts, we have international experts, and the security.
Do you see them highly represented?
The security, maybe they are not in today, maybe they are not there.
Is it not important for them to be?
It's important.
Concerned here.
It's important because the U.S. Navy and those navies who want to help Africa, they work with the national navies. But there is a question, it's just the state, the government, who can do the job to secure a country. You need a navy. And if you have a navy, you have to buy. And this is not up to one individual or one oil company. This is what a state must do. In the army, you have the air army, you have the armée de terre, and you have the navy. So you have to do it. This is up to the states and not to individuals, not to companies. So the governments must be involved, and the head of state mainly.
So how is it going to be beneficial to Cameroon in
to
terms
all of
of
us?
political image? Cameroon, the meeting that is ongoing in Yaoundé,
Yes.
first of all, how will it benefit the country's political image?
I don't know. I've heard that we don't need to go. The head of state doesn't need to go to summit. But when they say a summit, this means the representation at the highest level. This means that the head of state must be there and involved. I know that they told us that some delegations have been deployed out of Africa, in Africa, to make sure that the heads of state will be there, and they are there. And this marks maybe a beginning, asking the head of state of Cameroon to be much more present in all the summits on Africa, the UA, and so on, you know. And when they were talking, delivering their messages this morning, they said, we have talked about that at the African Union, we have talked about that at the Security Council, where the Togo has a seat. We have talked about that by Mr. The head of state of Benin, who was the head of state in charge of the AU, Mr. Yayi Boni. So all this summit must be really important for the head of state. He must be there. He must carry out our message. He must be the one who speaks for Cameroon. And it's very important to be there, because when you have a summit, nobody will come. You have to go and lay pressure, making lobbying to make sure that the people will come to assist to your summit at home.
And the maritime piracy, combating or fighting maritime
yes,
piracy.
Yes, it's up to a state or a group of states.
How
yes.
will it benefit the nation Cameroon? How is it going to be beneficial to Cameroon?
It's going to benefit to Cameroon, because Cameroon has no fleet. No navy. We have what they call Delta, Beer Delta. But these are the commando forces. They are just there to help. But you need to have a navy with ships, with armaments. If you don't have that, you cannot do anything. So I think that they point out for Cameroonian to make sure that they can have equipments up to their GDP, at least, because our country is rich and we need money and we need security. So I think that this time they will lay pressure on the Cameroonian government to make sure that they can do what they will have to do. Because if you are not secure here, the pirates will come, go to another country, make what they want, and come to hide in your country because you don't have any materials to protect your coast. So this is the danger. I hope that will change.
Now, still away, I shouldn't say practically away from the Maritime Security Summit in Yaoundé, we hear that it caused an intense traffic jam in Yaoundé Central region of the country. Should we blame it on poor organization or what? Because it actually paralyzed economic and other activities in Yaoundé today.
I know, but this is a Cameroonian tradition, you know. When the head of state has to go out, the city is paralyzed. And when you have 11 heads of state and Mr. Biawe, which make 12 heads of state, they'll paralyze the city. But this is what has been done for years and years and years. People have been complaining. Journalists have been criticizing the fact that you cannot move in Yaoundé when the head of state has to go out or where there is a summit or the May 20 day, National Day. So this is a tradition. What can you do?
It's fast becoming a natural phenomenon, a normal phenomenon.
Yes,
we should
but I
criticize
it. This is not normal. You know.
It's not normal. Thank you so much, Madam Ms. Henriette EKWE, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Mimi. Thank you.
Henriette EKWE there, a political analyst and also a journalist, telling us about the security or maritime security summit that is ongoing in Yaoundé Central region of the country. We have come to the end of this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinox Television. We thank you so much for your keen attention. See you tomorrow, same time. Meantime, have a wonderful stay in the company of our programs.